Hello, and welcome to another live stream. Tonight, we have some plans to just kind of hang out, check out some stuff on Kickstarter, maybe share some stories and all those kind of things. And so, if you happen to be catching us later, after the recording is all done and all that stuff, don't hesitate. Jump in those comments if you have anything that you want to add, contribute, and all those, and we'll catch it at that point. So, pretty laid back evening, mostly because I was trying to get Cthulhu Confidential sorted out, and I ran out of time. Mostly because of poor time management, rather than the fact that the game is complicated. But
Also, that being said, if there's any solo games that anybody is interested in hearing us play, um, or duet games while we're
yeah,
waiting for Jeff to return, please let us know. Well, most solo games you can kind of work into running with two people, I think,
mhm,
or GM-less. So if anybody
yeah,
has any types of those games that they want to suggest or see, let us know, because that might be what we're doing for a little while on the live
mhm.
streams until Jeff returns to our warm embrace.
Something like that. Yeah, whatever he's doing there. So it does mean that we'll be playing types of games that maybe we hadn't explored a little bit before, because there are games that are designed to be played as a duet, which is a neat term and all that. It's just not a very robust genre because it feels like it's either solo or it's um, like a full group. Like I've seen most of the tabletop RPG games say like 3 to 5, whatever it is. But then, of course, once you start getting smaller and smaller groups, the game just starts to be like, well, we kind of anticipated having more than one person here. The thing happens and you just die, or
I don't know. I think narrative games are pretty easy to run as a duet,
yeah,
with a GM and another person, and I think it's kind of interesting because you get more of the like movie feel
hmm,
when you run the game, where it's just like a director and then
the
the
one
main
person.
character.
Yeah,
So
it
I think
was
that makes it kind
interesting.
of interesting.
And that's kind of how Cthulhu Confidential seems to be reading based on what I have so far. Is it seems like at least in the initial thing that it's going to have you run, is it basically has you take on the role of one of three pre-generated characters, and there's like a cast that surrounds you as you gumshoe your way through the situation and all that stuff. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that because you kind of hit the nail right on the head. That's kind of how.
yeah, and I also that's one of the reasons why I hate those perfect party games where it's like, well, you have to have a perfect party for everyone. Because the other thing that you can do is like if you're in a smaller game, like a two-person game, like two
Mhm,
people and a GM, like it's a buddy cop movie. Like you're in some sort of buddy movie where you can do the kind of buddy cop dynamic.
mhm,
So I think that's I and I think those games are fun. I think the two-person dynamic is kind of fun. And it's something that you have a lot more, like, it's interesting because you have a lot more reference for
mhm.
both the solo, like not solo, but like the storyteller and the main character, and like the storyteller and two main characters, because that's how most of our media is presented.
Mhm.
Like it was always interesting to me that role-playing games are presented as a media. And this is off topic of what we're supposed to be talking about,
Uh,
but
our
it's
show is named Just Chatting. How is this off topic?
it's always interesting to me how role-playing games fit this weird dynamic where it's like there's five main characters or four main characters,
Mhm.
whereas most of the media that we ingest aren't written that way at all.
Yeah.
And I think later movies, I think that's one of the reasons why like Firefly and the movies are kind of really caught on, is because they kind of fit that there's multiple characters that get spotlighted in like
Mhm.
Firefly in the movies. And it's more of a cast sort of story
Mhm.
than
Ensemble or whatever.
yeah, than a just like one hero like commandoing his way through the adventure or whatever.
Mhm.
um and so it's always been interesting to me, and I think that influence you kind of started to see in some movies like the Magnificent Seven getting remade.
Yeah.
Like it's terrible, but like
Do you think
uh
it comes from, like, the wargamer roots? Just since we're gonna wax poetically off topic of.
no, I think it's the influence of D&D and role-playing games starting to come in through more heavily in pop culture. I think you can't tell me that Joss Whedon, and I know he's not a bad name right now as far as some of the things that apparently has happened. But well, like Joss Whedon's cast of character movies, both in
Mhm.
Buffy and like Firefly, like there is no main character really. Like there's and you can like characters that aren't the main character. And I think part of that is evident because of that D&D culture, that for that, party is the main character, not just
Sure.
Rambo or John Matrix or John Wick.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's a fair point. And I guess when you think about it, it is interesting. And maybe they just wanted to have you create a full perfect party because I wanted to sell everybody books. I don't know. Maybe that's the sinister. You gotta make this game for 5 or more people, man. We gotta sell
Right.
books. No, but it is an interesting thing, and I wonder I wonder why there is that more leaning towards saying like I want to get all my friends together versus just one friend, because I do think that there is a sense that sometimes you get into that like main character syndrome for some people, where it's real easy for a very extroverted individual to take a bunch of like pull a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of introverted people along for the ride. But on a one-on-one, I mean, they just, oh, I've got protagonist time. Okay,
Right.
perfect. Let's do it.
I'm
I
I'm,
get,
I'm I'm pure spotlight now.
yeah, like it
Yeah,
shines upon me.
yeah.
Like,
And it probably does have wargaming roots, where like you're talking about wargaming clubs where
mhm,
people would show up, and maybe there's odd numbers of people, so you kind of got to make up a reason why 3 people are involved in the war game versus just 2 or whatever. It probably
mhm,
does come from that roots, but it's always just been interesting to me where, yeah, the group dynamic is always interesting because our media is so not that. Like it's always like the single hero or the buddy cop sort of thing. It's
mhm,
usually not
yeah. I mean,
a group of 5 people.
but I've always read like a lot of fantasy, and a lot of fantasy tends to have a like maybe a main protagonist that's followed, but then there's a huge cast of character that's going along with them. I can't say that I have a lot of experience with like the '70s fantasy and stuff like that. There's like a lot of that in there, but like I just remember when I was growing up, it felt like there was always like big casts of
But I
fantasy
mean,
characters, and fantasy books were huge. So
you have your favorites, but like even Tolkien books, like
mhm,
there is like The Hobbit, it's
mhm.
Bilbo. Bilbo is the main character.
I mean, are
And
you
like the
sure?
fellow yes. In the Fellowship, yeah, I guess there's strong secondary characters, but the
Mhm.
the story is still told from the perspective of one person.
Yeah.
And I would not say that everybody gets equal spotlight time in those books.
No. No, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the cast of characters is always so big, and they tend to be
Yeah,
parties and
and I'm
stuff,
just
so
saying that's what's interesting about role-playing games is it's designed to put the spotlight on a cast of characters versus just one person
mhm.
usually.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why storytelling in a role-playing game perspective is interesting, is because as the GM, you're expected to give equal time to everyone if they
Yeah.
want it.
Well, but also and I guess since we're down this rabbit hole, might as well dig a little deeper, but wouldn't there be something to say that a lot of these initial, like, D&D games and stuff like that were like, "Okay, let's dive into this dungeon." So, there might have been some story and some character development of your, dwarf axeman that's joined with his human friend and elven wizard and all that stuff, but, like, would there be it feels like that's less spotlighty and more just like, "Hey, we're playing a more confined game that's."
But as the GM, even if you like listen to Blackmore or some of the early role-playing attempts, like
Mhm.
there is still a focus on the thief should be doing thiefy things. The
No.
fighter should be doing fighty things. And these are early spotlight. Like
Yeah.
even though it has no like character,
Mhm.
like it has no personality to the character other than the fact that they do their job. Like
Yeah.
their job like encourages their spotlight time.
It's
And
true.
like
Yeah.
and so like if you made a dungeon where like the thief didn't get to do anything, like that would probably be a sucky adventure, and like it was the GM's job to like realize that.
That's
um
true. You're probably right there. Yeah, so no, I think it's an interesting conversation. I think we'll probably have to talk about how to spotlight individual. I guess our experience here could be used to, reflect on our
well,
game
yeah,
going
I think
forward versus a group.
well, exactly. I think that's one thing that, like, when you talk about running a role-playing game, that's one of the things that you're talking about doing is splitting the
Mhm.
attention. Like, even if you look at other players as the audience, you're talking about spotlighting people for the story.
Mhm.
And your experience doing that in a role-playing game is going to be different than the media that you ingest usually.
Yeah.
Um, because, like I said, most stories are going to be, you know, Rambo, one-on-one murder hoboing people, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you play the game you want. If you want to be a murder hobo and you have a DM that says that's cool, I guess that's cool.
But it's
But
not going to be cool if it's one guy being Rambo and his three friends are staring at him all the time, like, "Oh my god, what did you just do to that person?"
yeah.
"Oh my god, you just blew him up with an exploding arrow? You're
Well,
not supposed to use those against people."
it's true. It was kind of funny because you remember when we were doing Fabula Ultima
Mhm.
creation, and it was like one of the group types was like, "There's one protagonist in this group, and the rest of you are the merry men." Let's just
Yeah,
say,
and the
like,
rest of us were like, "That's weird. We don't really want to do that."
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure you could create a just fine game or something like that that includes those things, but that was just I thought it was just a funny.
Well,
Um,
actually, Ars Magica is kind of a game like that where you have the wizard and then they have their troop of followers.
sure.
And you
Did
kind of, and
segue,
this
Brent?
segues, and this is a segue
Oh, I'm about to say,
into
do you
our
want me
conversation.
to pull that up for you on backerkit?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So segue unsubtly. And let me see if I did this
It would
right.
have been subtle if people wouldn't have pointed it out.
Who's people here? This is just
Exactly.
hey, I feel attacked. Okay. So I've got it sharing right now on screen. I'll go ahead and so you can see what I'm sharing on screen. Um entire screen window. Whatever. All right. So Ars Magica Definitive Edition went on backerkit. Not that I have a preference between one or the other, but backerkit, just an
I
FYI.
I don't either, really. Just for
But
posting.
strong showing. Definitely funded. 3 minutes and 17 days left. So a pretty good showing for a game. I've never actually played Ars Magica, and I have very little knowledge about the game. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Ars
I
Magica?
I have played a little bit of it. I haven't
Mhm.
played it a ton. I had a friend who was obsessed with it for a little while because it wasn't D&D.
Sure,
Um, when I was in high school. And the kind
sure.
of interesting thing about it is it's a very one, the way that you make your wizard, and then really
Mhm.
what you have is your wizard troop, which is
Okay.
you can kind of play it a couple different ways. One is that you once somebody plays the wizard in the game,
Mhm.
like say I was playing the wizard, and then your companions play your wizard troop.
Okay.
Like if you have a bodyguard or whatever, like they play your troop, and you are kind of playing one of those games where it's I'm obviously the protagonist, and you're kind of my henchman.
Okay.
Um, and you have moments to shine and stuff like that, but it's all in relation to the character. And then what you
Sure.
would do is you would rotate that through your games, like it would
Hmm.
be or you can play it as the wizard is the one going on the adventure or whatever. And then you have a couple of your troop people come with you, and then there's like multiple wizards that are going on this adventure, and then you basically
Sure.
have several characters that you play.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so it's not a peasant funnel, they're all special, but it's very much a you and then your characters, and you kind of play multiple characters in the game.
Mhm.
It's really interesting because it's freeform magic. It isn't like spells. It's like you kind of pick, I believe, you kind of pick your school, and then you kind of have a formula for what you cast as far as a spell.
Sure.
Um,
We just talked about the Broken Empire. Didn't they have a
mhm.
similar formula?
Yes, he's
Did,
yes.
did-
His magic system is
inspired by?
yep,
Fair enough.
inspired by ours.
Hey, if you have something you like out there,
And Ars Magic is a very popular game. It's a very it's been around for a long time, and a lot of people have really enjoyed the multiple editions of the game. So
sure. Okay, so since we're not affiliated with Atlas Games or anybody related to Ars Magica, Brent just pledged or no?
no, I didn't pledge. I just thought it was interesting. It's a classic game,
Yeah.
so it's worth
So,
talking.
and I think this is on my. I think Ars Magica was on my list of games. It's on my bucket list of games to play because it feels like there's so many classic games that I want to see that kind of informed the genre. And I feel like Ars Magica, I don't know if it informed the genre maybe, but I feel like it's one of those games that you hear about people playing that they enjoyed playing. And I just never got a chance to play it.
I think it was a pretty influential game,
Hmm.
the way that it ran things, because it was so
Cool.
not D&D. Also, it's a mythic European setting, meaning that it's
Oh,
not a fantasy world. It's like France. Like I think it's the setting of one of the podcasts that I listened to. Like it was in France. Um,
and
and
that's
they were going to visit like a church. So it's very yeah, it's very grounded in reality.
Oh, nice. So, in case anybody's wondering, this campaign includes the massive Ars Magica Definitive Edition core rulebook, an essential reference guide, 3-panel story guide screen, a poster map, premium slipcover cover, 6 10-sided transmutation dice, made of recycled plastic. Sure. Stretch goals that release Ars Magica as an open license. That's actually kind of cool because that would mean that they're really interested in having community content for this. And I do think, and I don't know if everybody agrees with this statement, but for me at least, I believe that games that have an open and I'll just use games like computer games especially because I've never really written any adventures or anything, but like I always see that the computer games that like open up the hood and allow the players to tinker and play with the game and start to play the game however they want to have so much more longevity than people that try to like, no, this game is only played in this one specific way. Don't try to do anything. If you cheat, we're going to ban your account or some crap.
Well, I mean, the open gaming licenses do the thing that like we've talked about before, where it's like if you have a community that's making adventures for your game or writing fluff for your game or content for your game, like you're gonna have like a flood or 4 times more than any studio is going to put out. I sort of agree with the philosophy that they kind of did in 3.5, where it was like open license, and then you can kind of like, we're not making adventures. We're gonna let the community make adventures. And I think that's always been or 5th edition. Maybe that started mostly in 5th edition. I know there was a little bit in 3.5, but mostly in 5th edition. But like choosing not to make adventures, like it's expensive for them to have professional writers do it. And so if you can have a community of people do it, like you're just gonna look what Mothership has done. Like how many Mothership hacks and adventures and everything that it does because it's an open license.
Well, yeah, and not just like bad. There's like a lot of good content in Mothership, which is why I wish I liked the system more. Sorry, but moving on. But yeah, so what is Ars Magica for those that are uninitiated like myself? This extensively detailed award-winning role-playing game of myth in magic, like you said, widely regarded as the benchmark for magic systems. Cool. And the pioneer of troop-style story-focused RPGs. Troop-style must be what you were talking about.
Yep,
with the
troop-style is the wizard, and then his troop.
The wizard and their entourage or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
Entourage, that's the word.
Well, I mean, if you're a wizard, you have to have an entourage. Like that just seems like the way to go, right? So let's see. Ultimate role-playing experience, delve into the lives of powerful wizards and their companions in a world brimming with magic and mystery. And since it's kind of like grounded mythological Europe, like that can be a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun with those type of real world inspired by type situations. I mean, we played Basin, and that was a tremendous amount of fun to have kind of a historically adjacent supernatural.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing. Like it says up there in a little bit, the superstitions of the common folk are all true, basically. Like it's medieval. It's medieval Europe where like there's truth to the things that are happening.
Yeah, all those little superstitions, they're real.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Real dragons, real wizards, real fairies, stuff like that.
They may not be ravaging every countryside, but at least one or two.
Right.
So troop style storytelling game, players take the role of not only powerful magi, but also the companions and grogs. What the hell is a grog?
I believe a grog is like just a regular like water boy sort of thing.
Like a muggle in this world? Like
no, it's like a job. It's like a grog is like, if I remember right, it's like God, I haven't thought about it in so long.
Well, if anybody knows what a grog is, please let us know in the comments. Or Brent's going to Google it, one of the two.
That is correct. I will look it up.
Oh, I like the artwork for it. That looks nice. Kind of that almost stylistic monk,
Grogs
and
are,
heavily
Grogs are characters of service, bodyguards, servants, craftsmen, and street thugs. So, like, yeah, they're basically regular people. They're your NPCs that are in your troop. Your grogs. I don't know where the actual word comes from. I'm sure it's some sort of medieval insult, frankly.
Well, I mean, maybe. It probably is. The definitive edition is a heavily expanded version of the fifth edition core rulebook. I think D&D has ruined me because I heard 5th edition and I was like, wait, it's D&D based? It's just
no.
I said 5th edition so much since I picked up the system so many years ago that's the only 5th edition I'm aware of. Plus, there's an enormous library of Ars Magica supplements in our catalog to help you develop your campaign. As a rule, source books from earlier editions are also usable with the newest edition. Oh, nice.
So yeah, I don't think it's changed very much, which means it's a very old trad game, which means it's pretty crunchy. Which means if you're designing an adventure, you're probably going to have to put some work in.
This is just like an odd call out. A revised and expanded deluxe version of Ars Magica 5th edition, weighing in at over twice the original page count. Wow.
Yeah, that probably means it's like 400 pages or 600 pages or something like that. Because the old book wasn't small, if I remember right.
Well, I mean, that looks meaty. I mean, not to say that this is necessarily the final art.
It's a wizard's tome for sure. That's
nice.
Ars Magica makes you kind of feel that way. It definitely feels like a wizard's tome when you're holding the book.
Man, that would be
cool.
Or
like a weapon.
Definitive edition, and like it had the silvered lining and all that kind of stuff.
Or like ribbons. A weapon that you could use against people. Yeah, 600 full color pages. Yeah, the old one was 300 pages. The new one's 600 pages. Yeah.
Oh, is this what I think it is?
That's what it says.
Okay, well, I'll click it and see what happens. Ooh,
your computer crashes?
No, I don't think so.
No, Did it crash? That would have been funny.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, I hate to say this, but
I clicked it and mistakes were made,
and it caused my computer to burst into flames. Okay, so here's the preview copy. I do like this art. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Oh, okay. Open this. So let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Yeah, this has to be downloaded. You can't. This is not friendly for reading online.
No. But yeah, it's in that. It's in that old. It's in very much a. Like everything kind of fits the theme. Like Ars Magica has always been pretty good at that. Is everything kind of fits their idea of it being, old medieval style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's got great. They use some great fonts. They've got that kind of old, calligraphy and everything like that. Heraldry. Very much feels like an Arthurian or very knight chivalry type game to me, which is cool. I mean,
the weight of the book will make you feel like you're carrying around a wizard spellbook too. If you carry it around for any amount of time, I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I can't say that. I'll have to read this later, and it's 31 pages, so you get a good sense of how the game is going to like feel and play and everything like that. So that's kind of neat. Well, I hadn't planned. Oh, they're going to put that book with other books in a slipcase. Nice.
Yeah, it'll be 900 pounds. The shipping and handling for your Ars Magica collector's edition is going to be basically double the price of the book, probably
$1,000.
This is one where you take it to the post office and they're like, "What's in here, Bricks?"
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty funny. So rewards and tiers, a Grog's Lots add-in only. So add-on access to spend $1 to get that. The Wizard's Companion digital only. PDF advanced layout. Advanced manuscript doc delivered by Friday. Just any Friday.
Every Friday.
Every Friday. All right, sure. The Hermetic Magus, over 21% off. That's the physical plus digital. That looks to be pretty neat. The Domus Magna, the verified retailers. Whoa.
And then there's the Library of Duramar, which you get
Holy shit.
multiple copies of everything.
That must be like their entire library.
Yeah, it's probably it's probably PDFs of all of the pre-existing books, and then the new physical books, and then the PDFs of the books, dice.
Oh, look
Yeah.
at that. Those are older editions of the books, the PDFs of the
Mhm.
older stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
they did that with what other game did they did that with that I bought? Oh, Over the Edge. They did that with Over the Edge, where if you backed at a certain level, they give you all of the
Mhm.
old Over the Edge stuff in PDF form too.
Nice.
Which was nice, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Honestly, I mean, since I've never played Ars Magica, I'm not gonna jump into the Library of Durinmar, but
That's a lot of dedication to playing in the future for sure.
yeah. Okay. So what stretch goals are they? So unlocked project funded. Ars Magica definitive funded. Physical upgrade. Ooh, first ribbon bookmark. How many ribbon bookmarks?
I don't know.
That's
It'd be
kind of cool.
funny if there was one every couple
Every six
every
stitching.
25 grand. There's another bookmark.
Okay, so we're going ribbon bookmark, golden gilden. Ooh, yeah, that needed to happen. The gold gilding. Creative Commons unlocked. Physical upgrade. Spot gloss details. Ooh, okay. Creative Commons. Oh, nice. Open license
Oh,
to more
yep,
books.
that's pretty cool.
The leatherette slipcover. Creative Commons to. Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yep, they're adding things to the Creative Commons with resources that you can use. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's just interesting that they're including that as part of their unlock goals. I had never thought of that or seen it before. So not that I have a lot of experience in this, but this is kind of neat.
No, I haven't seen that before, but that's kind of cool because those subjects will now be stuff that people can use in their
Yep.
stuff. So
new art by Doug Schuler. That's kind of cool. Looks like a big time fan. Like it. Additional Creative Commons. Okay. Digital upgrades, more Creative Commons, physical upgrade. Oh,
there's your second ribbon bookmark.
Man, that took a long time to get to that. Open license, finished. Okay, Spanish translation problem. Oh, okay.
Oh,
neat.
Cool. More art
and additional art by Doug. Good work.
I think that's a good use of additional third bookmark of additional funds is more art because art's pretty expensive and it's good that they're giving artists.
Yeah, well, it's nice, especially it seems like an artist that's loved the game for so long. I mean, that must just be an awesome experience for them to be able to put official artwork out for the content.
And a third bookmark.
Yeah, there's 600 pages.
It is 600 pages, so it might be necessary. I don't know.
Okay, now if there's a fourth bookmark, come on. Oh,
no.
Fourth bookmark. More stretch goals to come. Fourth bookmark. Okay.
More bookmarks. It's just going to be bookmarks. It's going to be fourth bookmark, fifth bookmark, sixth bookmark, seventh bookmark.
It could be fun if it was just ridiculous, like a streamer of bookmarks that came out of the book. That could be a good time.
If it was Hackmaster Deluxe Edition, 100%.
That's funny. Okay, so what we have our estimated fulfillment is late summer 2025. Okay, so that's actually closer.
That's actually pretty close. Atlas is an actual publishing company, though, so I think it makes sense.
Our Ars Magica looks so amazing because it's a decade of work. Support our site artists by adding one of their excellent art pieces to your collection. Just click through the links below. Hey, nice work. As you said,
that's very cool.
Yeah, I had, and I like that they can kind of go and you can just go to some of these other artists and they give you really, really easy access to their stuff.
Yeah, their prints and stuff. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, to my favorite tabletop RPG. Oh, look at that. Okay. So praise for Ars Magica. Well, we don't have any praise for it per se, other than what Brent has done since he was in high school. I don't.
No, I think there is a lot of praise for the game. It's one of those games that I've always been interested in as not D&D.
Mhm.
And it's such a different experience. Medieval Europe is an interesting setting. The fictionalized medieval Europe is an interesting setting, and then that troop play is kind of interesting,
Yeah.
especially since it's not like a peasant funnel. It's like your troop is actually important,
Sure.
versus like the peasant funnel where it's not. Your characters
Gotcha.
aren't really important.
Well, and I'm actually surprised because I'd be curious to see what other people do for multiple player characters. Because I've always played in games where it was just like one player, one character, like that was the ratio. But I mean, having several players in, like having one player with two or three characters, I mean, that's not out of bounds. I just paperwork wise, hard to
Right.
forget one
Yeah,
person.
that's what I mean is it's a pretty crunchy game because that is a thing. Like people have multiple, like
Mhm,
even if you're not playing them as characters and your grogs are more NPCs, like
mhm.
there's still bookwork and stuff that needs to be done to, you know, hold true to those personalities and characters.
Sure. So that's Ars Magica. I mean, Brett may back it. I think I'm probably not going to back this one per se, but I'll keep an eye out for the edition later. Um, after I find more money.
That's sort of where I am too. I'm trying not to back anything right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, right now, the funniest part about the game is I was reading on Reddit and somebody was saying like, oh, like, well, why do people continuously I think the like post was called like why do you polish the same stone or something like that, and I was like, well, because people like the slight variations in people's takes on some of this stuff. And then somebody was complaining, they're like, if I try to push a game that isn't like 90% what my players are already used to, it's like impossible. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be a hard transition to have to get so close.
It's always surprises me that people have so much. I don't know. I've never been in a player group that had problems playing a different game. Like they've never been married to just like D&D. Like it's always been, well, I want to try this game.
Yeah.
And then, well, other than the rule of thumb is, and I think this is probably the case is the rule of thumb is if you want to if you're interested in playing a game, you're the one that's probably going to have to run it.
Mhm.
So that's probably the hang up is like the non-GM person being like, oh, I want to play this game. And then everybody's like, are you going to run it?
Mhm.
And then it's like, well, no. And they're like, well, then we're not playing it. I'm going to play the games I want to play. Like that probably happens. I can see that happening because,
Well, and I feel like, as you kind of like look at what you have, your energy to play other games kind of diminishes too sometimes. Like if you're a busy professional and all those kind of things, it can be hard. Like I'm really surprised we played as many different games this year, because like it feels like it would have probably been the right thing to do would have just played the games a little deeper, gone two or three adventures into each one, and then we'd have had a little bit more system mastery on each game. But it was like I feel like a kid in a candy store. I got to play this one, this one, this one, which is why that's my segue to our next game, um, Elfquest. Boom.
oh, of course.
Yeah, we're not going to really talk about Elfquest because I mean it doesn't officially launch until tomorrow, the 29th.
He
Um,
means we don't have details other than he's really enamored of Elfquest.
well, I kind of am. So first things first, I'm not going to claim to be some really deep Elfquest fan that has been there since the beginning because it did start back in the late 70s, I think is when the comic started.
I think so.
And so like, but I did find that the comic was different than what I had kind of other stuff that I was reading at the time. Because a lot of the comics that I was reading when I was in my comic phase, if I ever really had one, was a lot of the superhero stuff. My grandpa had like a box of old comics from like the 60s, 70s, and early 80s that their kids and grandkids had like basically compiled into one easy to read location for me. But this was so different. And I actually hadn't read that because all they had was like Marvel comics and Image and not Image. What was that other comic? I don't remember.
DC.
But it was but they just had kind of those more superhero type things. And then a friend of mine actually showed me this. He had kind of some of the original comics, and I was like, what? This is way different than what I was used to.
Yeah.
It was interesting storytelling, like, I mean, the main character is Cutter, and he doesn't seem to like he doesn't mind getting into a scrap if you start it, but he basically is like, I don't know, I can't do this, and because of my inaction, because I just started rereading the comic books at elfquest.com. They have a reading room, you can check them out. He was like, oh, I can't hurt this human because that would be wrong, and then the humans like burned down the village. So it was just interesting to see kind of a different take on fantasy. I mean, at least at the time, it was a very different take. You had these elves that were kind of fierce star world traveling. I don't really remember how they got to the primitive Earth-like world of the two moons or whatever it is, but I don't know. It was just something about the art, the way the story was told, like kind of the characters and everything like that. It was just fun to follow. You didn't really follow it ever, did you?
No, I've read a couple. Like, I think I read one comic, and I just remember being confused because I didn't. It was like 100 out of like, so I didn't have any like knowledge of where the story was. It was like, oh, it's an elf and it's fighting something. Yeah. I will point out that I don't think this is a revision. I think this is it's a remaster, which means all the rules are pretty much going to be the same.
Yeah.
So if you want to go out and look on eBay, you can purchase a core book for like $150 of the 1985 RPG book. Yeah. 1984 Elfquest role-playing game. I think they're antiques by now, so
they probably are. So this is something interesting. I did want to look at this because I went to just the Wikipedia page to see if there was anything that I at least knew what I was getting into if I wanted to back this remastered 40th anniversary. And the Wikipedia page is kind of funny. So everybody knows that Wendy and Richard, I think the last name is Peeney, created Elfquest back in 1978. This is from the Wikipedia page, so not my own thing.
78. Yeah, I knew that.
So, the Earth-like planet of the world of the two moons, Chaosium acquired the license, and Steve Perrin, Sandy Peterson, and Yurik Chodak created the first edition in 1984, which is really interesting how short that was in terms of like established time, because I don't think there were a ton of issues of Elfquest from 1978 to 80. You know what I'm saying? Because they weren't publishing them like every week or every month. I think they were.
I mean, it was a monthly comic. So
was it? I thought it was only like 3 times a year.
I'm pretty sure most comics were monthly. I might be wrong.
Yeah, it was an independent job, so I mean, I wasn't paying that close of attention, but they created some extra supplements, Elfquest Companions, Sea Elves, Elf War, and everything like that. But it actually didn't do super well at the time. And one of the game's creators is, I guess, I don't know if this is on record. It doesn't really say, but it has.
You were right, and I was wrong. By the way, there's 21 issues between 1978 and 1984.
Oh yeah, I mean, so like it was. I mean, that's pretty good work for an independent artist to just pop those out like that. But Sandy Peterson, who worked at Chaosium, pointed out that Elfquest was given to the same game developer as the new edition of RuneQuest that was being worked on at the same time. And Peterson believed that Elfquest was used as a test bed for complex game mechanics that were going to be used in RuneQuest.
Well, probably.
So Peterson speculated that this caused parts of Elfquest to be much more complex than the fans of the comics were likely prepared for. It did have some Ralpartha miniatures, and I haven't really said Ralpartha in a long time, but
those are up on eBay for $500. You can get the whole set.
Really? Holy fuck!
Yeah, the whole set's up on eBay for $500. Yeah. Okay. The only reason I'm saying that is going to happen if we're right next to the core book that I was looking at, and I was like, oh, that's a lot of lead. Also, that would probably cost you, or sorry, not lead.
Pewter, probably, right?
Pewter, probably. And it's probably your box would probably also be very expensive to go to ship to your home.
Because it'd be all metal. Oh man, that would be cool though to see those. Do you have the link? Maybe we can show it on screen here in a second.
Let me see if I can find it again.
Sure. While you're doing that, so the reception for it was what I was actually the most interested in. And so in issue 60 of White Dwarf, Murray Riddle was impressed, noting the game utilizes the simplicity of RuneQuest characteristics and skill system, concentrates squarely on storytelling and the creation of atmosphere. Whittle did warn that this is not a game for the traditional war gamer who will find the lack of emphasis on tactical or combat skills, which are relegated to the last section of the player's book. Riddle concluded by giving the game an excellent rating of 9 out of 10, saying, "This is really the nicest RPG I have seen to give someone as a present. It would suit especially a new player or the parents of young children who undoubtedly love elves wholeheartedly, but also any player who cares about the story." I was like, that's actually a really, I mean, even though there's a little quibble in there, giving it a 9 or 10, pretty intense.
That's quite the review, really, especially considering it's probably a super crunchy game, frankly.
Maybe here I'll read. So there's two other areas that gave it some critical comments. But in 1990 book, The Complete Guide to Role-Playing Games, the game critic Rick Swan called this an engaging blend of high adventure and whimsy. Swan found the game easy to learn thanks to the clear rules by Steve Perrin, liberally illustrated with excerpts from the original comics. Swan noted that the game rules stated the combat is contrary to the spirit of the story. That's kind of cool. And was therefore puzzled that an uncharacteristically complex combat system took up 20 pages of the rule book. He also warned that for traditional roleplay gamers, monsters are scarce and magic barely exists. Very disappointing in a fantasy game and not particularly exciting. He commented that players might find themselves at a loss for what to do since the rule books aren't much help, offering only sketchy adventure situations that do little more to illustrate specific portions of the rules. Swan concluded by giving the game a rating of 2.5 out of 4, saying the problems with Elfquest have more to do with the limit set by the comic books than the game itself. Fans of the comics will have a ball replaying their favorite sequences. Others should check out the comics.
2.5 out of 4 is not a bad rating. Like, it's average.
It's just such a weird number for me. Out of 4, like what? A 4-star, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But
well, 2 is average. 2.5 would be above average on a 4 on a 4-star system. So he marked it better than average, even though he had a lot of complaints.
Yeah, it sounded like he had a lot of critical complaints about the game. But the funny thing is the way he describes the game and the game and everything like that. I think that in an age like today, I feel like that would be more positively reviewed. Like, I mean, it would be more positively received to have kind of a combat light, personal.
He said it's crunchy. It's 20 pages of combat.
Well, the first guy mentioned that he's just like, well, he doesn't understand why there's so much crunchy combat in the back of the book when it's not really the spirit of the game, you know.
Spirit of the comic, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the game seems to not be that way. But then again, I don't know. I mean, it's the spirit of the story is not.
It's an old trad game, so it's going to have crunchy combat. Like, that's the nature of games back then.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd be curious to see how it plays out. And obviously, and now that I'm looking at it, what's that West Coast there? I'm going to notice it everywhere I go now. I guess
Oh, you are. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Whatever. There's probably some reason for it other than Tolkien just picking the West Coast. And I think we had some commenter to give us some of their insights on it. And I thought that was a kind of a neat take on it.
There's quite a few commenters who commented on your obsession with coasts. And yeah, I mean, really, I think one of the things really ways to think about it is like the centers of industry and population in the real world and fantasy worlds usually linger around coasts because of the abundance of resources and travel.
That's fine. I'm just more, but then the question becomes: is just westwardly seen as more fantastical and unexplored than east? I mean, why not have a bunch of East Coast?
That's true. I guess you're right. You're commenting on it's like mostly West Coast, not just
a coast. It specifically seems to always be water on the left, land on the right.
Well, as they say, go west, young man. That's what you need to remember.
I'm just maybe that's kind of maybe that has roots in just how the world was perceived from I don't know, European centric. Maybe if we look at a lot more maps from other places, it wouldn't be seen like that.
Well, go west, young man is a purely American thing. So
yeah, no, that was really my comment. Is like, why not more East Coast? I don't mind if it's a coast or like Southern coast. You know, like
Obviously, you do mind. Obviously, you mind.
Whatever. I care about this and apparently economies that make sense. I don't know. Like in my old curmudgeonly old age, I'm like, the map is always the West Coast. Why not give me a south-facing sea? Like,
I want a map with no water on it,
or a map that's all water. Take that. I don't know.
I eagerly await your Waterworld RPG.
I think people isn't there like one called Blue Planet? Isn't that already a watery world type?
Blue Planet is. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't be breaking new ground, I guess.
Oh, if you're doing Waterworld, like Kevin Costner's Waterworld RPG, I think you'd be breaking ground.
Wouldn't I have to like have money to acquire licenses and other
Probably.
things?
It also it also wasn't a very popular movie, so
it may not have been a popular movie, but I liked the movie. Like, I mean, if I were to go out on a limb and say, okay, I enjoyed the movie, but I mean, not everyone, I guess, would. So,
Waterworld is a campaign setting designed to work with Fallout pencil and paper role-playing game system. So there is one.
Is it Waterworld based on the new 2D20, or is it a different?
No, it's it looks old. And it might just be a fan thing. It's Fallout pen and paper RPG too. It's not Fallout like the RPG.
Oh, okay. Maybe. So, okay. Well, I think let's see.
Segueing from medieval Europe and elves to dystopian futures.
Yes, I think that's probably a good idea.
And no coast.
I don't know. I haven't seen any maps yet.
Well, it takes place in one city, a walled city, like a bubble city. So
that's true. They're probably less likely to have
a coast.
Okay, so the next game that seemed to tickle Brent's fancy is actually called Avalon Rising. Role-playing in the mega city of Avalon 01. Now, the one thing that seems interesting to me about this is that, based on what I was reading, this seems like a fairly well done game so far. It even has an alpha that you can download and pick up and start testing if you want. They obviously mentioned that the alpha is missing some spots. It's an alpha. Like alphas aren't
completed.
Aren't complete. But it seems like this definitely hasn't gotten as much visibility, maybe because
well, what's interesting is I think it's Black Site Games is the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is they're a wargaming company.
Okay.
And this is kind of their first foray into writing a role-playing game, I believe.
There it is.
Black Site Studios. And so it's been kind of interesting to see kind of how well it's actually doing. So yeah,
I don't know or it feels weird because we've been highlighting some of these that have been like, we funded in 13 seconds, and maybe they did do really well at first, but 16 days left to go. They've obviously hit their goal and everything like that. But it's always nice to spotlight these kind of independent companies that are also putting out products that look very interesting. So a little bit about Avalon Rising. Let's see. First of all, the art, very very fun art. If you're into cyberpunk or anything like that.
One of their stretch goals. This tickled me immensely. One of their stretch goals was more weird hats, as you can see by the art there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So let's talk about Avalon Rising and do a little bit of a dive into it. The city is vast. We live out our lives in the crushing weight of concrete and humanity. Okay. All right. Feels a little close to home, maybe. I don't know. But there is still hope. Beneath the surface of the dying megacity, Avalon 01, the balance between power, survival, and secrets is fragile. You are part of an infinite thrall of humanity, all trying to carve out a living in this monumental world. From the luxurious heights of the upper echelon to the unforgiving depths of the undercroft, your journey is defined by the choices you make and the mysteries you uncover. Avalon's heart, Dogma, is failing. Its energy leaks, causing chaos and corruption across all layers of the city. As citizens, scavengers, and survivors, you must brave these anomalies to find a way to harness or stop the power that threatens to tear Avalon apart. But in a city where every faction fights for dominance, trust is scarce, and danger may come from any corner. Inspired by 80s sci-fi, cassette futurism, and cyberpunk classics, Avalon Rising challenges you to navigate the delicate balance between chaos and control in a world where every action could be your last. Well, I do have to say that based on the pitch of the story alone, I mean, I really love cyberpunk aesthetics. I like cassette futurism. I hadn't ever heard that word before. But cassette futurism, for the uninitiated like myself, is basically when you look at like all that 80s, 90s stuff, and instead of having laser discs and all those kind of things, you have VHS, Betamax, all those kind of things, and that's what's high technology.
Well, yeah, the 80s sci-fi part,
Mhm.
70s and 80s is kind of what I consider it, like the
Mhm.
Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Logan's Run, I think, would be a good inspiration for like the like an Avalon Rising type game.
Mhm.
Watch that for inspiration, I would say, because it takes place in their little mega city. That sort of like, I don't know, just that aesthetic really appeals to me, and I really kind of latched on this game as being interesting because of that.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, no, and I think but it's a cool like period of time to play around with. Now it's also weird because like it's like that retro futurism where you're just like, oh well, the future's it's like bulky future, which is strange.
Mhm.
When everything is moving towards slim and everything is, I don't know, like touch
Yeah,
screens.
retrofuturism is really the way to look
Yeah.
at it, I think.
The setting. It's not known at what point humanity sealed themselves into the walls of Avalon. Or memory of the outer limits has long since faded into history. Avalon 01. It's always nice when they add an 01 to something because you definitely know there was more than one, right?
Right, potentially.
It is a sprawling megacity built within the crust of an unknown structure. Its labyrinth of towering hab blocks, endless tunnels, decaying infrastructure. Over time, Avalon 01 evolved into a tiered metropolis with each layer reflecting the divisions of society. Then, of course, it goes into a little bit of your standard upper, mid, undercropped. The wealthy people are always at the top, shit rolling downhill and all that, right? But I do like how there's a keepers guild that works in secrecy, tirelessly maintaining the fragile systems that keep Avalon alive. And this picture is just so neat to me.
Right, like the visuals are really interesting, and that's one of that retro. It captures that retro futurism that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that just looks so unhelpful as a suit, but you're
Well,
just like,
it depends what its purpose is. If its
yeah,
purpose is to keep out radiation and stuff like that, it looks very helpful. But if it's being attacked by people,
yeah.
it doesn't look very helpful.
No, no. I mean, you can barely see out of the damn thing,
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
just, but stylistically, it's artistic in a way that, like, as they, the light and all those kind of things there. Whoops. Um, so the game in Avalon Rising, you and your crew of explorers, scavengers, and corporate citizens venture the pearliest depths of Avalon 01, a sprawling underground megacity on the brink of collapse. Each of you hails from different layers of the city, from the opulent upper echelon to the grim undercroft, bringing unique skills and backgrounds to your group. You work for factions vying for control over Avalon's dwindling resources, whether it's the Keepers Guild seeking to restore the failing energy supply or the Hidden Eyes manipulating the power struggles for their gain. In the shifting labyrinth of Avalon 01, you undertake the missions to recover artifacts, sabotage rival factions, and uncover the mysteries of the central dogma itself. Your choices will affect not just your survival, but the fate of the entire city. Okay, so core mechanics. Players roll 2 dice, one for their trait and one for their skill to perform actions. Does that remind you? Is that Savage Worlds? For the size of the dice, D68, D10, and D12 reflect how proficient a character is. The smaller the dice, the better the chance of success. Oh, okay. I always like bigger dice for some reason myself, but
You
players
like
need
seeing
to,
the big numbers.
yeah, big numbers. Players need to roll under their target threshold set by the game master. Most of the successes can unlock extra benefits, and pushing a roll can lead to riskier outcomes. And then there is a despair mechanic. Ooh, exciting.
Always good.
Yeah, always nice to have some way to really just muck everything up. Represents the emotional and mental strain caused by exposure to dogma energy or the traumatic events. Despair affects a player's core aspects, mind, body, and soul, and managing it is key to both physical and psychological survival in Avalon. Oh, right on. So, out of curiosity, so first of all, did you back this yet? It seems like it's right up your alley.
This
Okay,
one
you
I
did.
did back. Yeah, this is the
Okay.
last thing that I backed.
Yeah. So the core rulebook for Avalon Rising, 200 plus pages, um, good art, all that kind of stuff. And this, I love it when they do this. When you give me a chance to just kind of sink my teeth into it, um, and just see what the game is all about. I have so much more fun with that, just to kind of get an idea if it's a game I want to play. Especially
Yeah,
since
and
we have so many games on the shelf that we just can't
I
get
hadn't
through.
seen that. I hadn't seen that the alpha was up, so I don't know when they added it, but I'm interested in looking through it.
Mhm. Okay. And so, yeah, so I think I might, after Cthulhu Confidential, I might run this, even though that'll probably be well after because it's 16 days. Running Cthulhu Confidential and this in 2 weeks.
Well, this can hold off for the future. But 16 days. Yeah. So if you're interested, guys, get out there and back it.
Yeah.
16 days left. It's funded already. They didn't have a huge goal, so you'll definitely. I mean, it'll definitely be funded. So
Yeah.
if something horrible doesn't happen, you should get your games. Also, it has minis. They give you STL files so you can print your own minis for the game.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot of neat little add-ons.
Oh,
Like I
neat.
said, they're a wargaming company, so they included minis with
Oh,
fun hats. Yeah, they have the cool. I don't know those that's just cool art.
yeah. Nice. Pretty distinct. I like the flip flops. That really helps me out here.
It's
I'm not sure what that person does or what they have, but they're very comfortable in the feet.
definitely not
Unlocked extra
dangerous.
minis. It just looks insanely cool. Just
Yeah,
and
like the art is
cumbersome.
they picked a really good aesthetic for the game. It's very it stands out.
It does. It does. And I like the pants at the very bottom. Just like, oh well. I mean, you got most of the important stuff already covered. You're
Well,
fine.
it's like a big coat.
Yeah. Of course. Oh, nice. Happy Phone. One shot, or a fun and thematic one shot scenario written by Ben Galbraith set in the dystopic Happy Phone headquarters. Oh, God.
Yeah,
That looks pretty
great.
fun. Nice. So I guess we've already kind of talked about, how did you discover these guys? Do you know them from a wargaming perspective, or like?
No, role playing games just come up on my like they inundate my life now. So like as I'm
Mhm.
scrolling any of my social medias, they usually throw games at my face. And the art on this one really kind of stuck out. So
Mhm.
I went and checked it out and I read about it and it fit kind of like I said that THX / Logan's Run /
Mhm.
1984 Brave New World kind of uh aesthetic that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty into. So I was like, well, I gotta back this and just make sure that it happens. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
Well, then maybe what we do is then, I'll run Cthulhu Confidential and you run Avalon's Rising. Ooh.
We'll talk about it. I'm not super comfortable. I don't always like running games from the alpha because I don't like running an incomplete version of the game. But I'll look at it and see how complete it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that could be. It could be a lot of fun, honestly. Like I personally like. I will have to see, and I don't know how much the alpha offers because I haven't had a chance to dive into it at all.
Yeah,
But it
me
is
either.
92 pages, and if you look at a lot of other quick starts, that seems to be a lot like in line with most quick starts. So it should give you a fairly solid understanding of at least where to start.
Yeah, but like if you remember like when the Electric State alpha came out, like there were whole like paragraphs missing from the
Oh,
alpha.
yeah.
Like there were just like it was like, oh, that's not in there at all. So I just don't want to give it a incomplete look, but I'll look at it and see if I feel like it's runnable. Sure.
Yeah, no, I think it looks, honestly, I think it's like one of those games that you instantly are gonna like. You're just like, oh, This is my vibe. I like it.
Yeah, it definitely fits the sort of world that I enjoy that watching and reading about.
Yeah. So neat. Well, I think that's the game for. I think that's the conversation for today.
Crux of our
Um,
arguments.
yeah, I mean, we don't have anything to argue about, I don't think, but it is
Start,
Halloween this week, so
we'll
we
start an argument.
could start an argument. D&D 2024 is good. No.
Well, but neither of us know enough to actually argue about that.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
people have been pretty positive about it.
and the Bastion system seemed right up your alley.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it when they include stuff that I want to read about. So, I mean, it is what it is. I just don't know when I'll be able to get to that since there's so many more interesting games that we've been touching on. So,
well, I'm not giving Hasbro my money, so I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna have it for you. So,
do you want? I wonder if it's on D&D Beyond. I did cancel my subscription at the whole beginning of the debacle.
yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't had a subscription to that in over a year.
Yeah. So, but I still have books on there, I think. But that's my favorite part about buying digital books, that you don't actually get a copy of the book, is that it's just gone once it's done. Like, it just, oh, sorry, we don't like you anymore. Gone.
Well, that's the age we live in.
Oh, you bought the old
media.
version of the book. Now it's the new version of the book, and you have to pay a $10 upgrade fee.
Yeah, digital media is the wave of the future, or the wave of the now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just nice. I've been reading a lot more books in, like, as paper books, just because I've been able to focus on them better. Not that the toddler helps at all, but whatever. What's that? What's that? What's that? Oh gosh, that's all kinds of stuff, buddy. Where do you want to start? I don't know. I wonder how long it would take before he's interested in a role playing game, or he'll just hate everything that I do. And
We'll
basically,
see.
Oh, you play role playing games?
There are a couple different outcomes to this. My dad's a nerd and I don't like it, or my dad's a nerd and that's cool.
Yeah, one of the two. He might. I don't know. We'll see. But that's it. If anybody has if anybody catches this down the road and they have any comments, would like to add their own experiences for any of the games we talked about, or if you happen to be from one of the places that are publishing one of these things and you want to chat about one of these games, let us know. I'll definitely put that at the end of the podcast again, because it's what I do. Oh, and also subscribe. Oh, geez, I'm bad at YouTube.
Like, subscribe, follow, force your friends to watch it. Like a scene from Clockwork Orange, just tape their eyes open and make them watch it if they have it. If you can't talk them into it.
Well, okay.
That's a joke. Don't kidnap anybody.
Yeah. No. No, but yeah, if you have any experience with any of the games, especially like Ars Magica, which seems to have a pretty long history, or even Elfquest, if you happen to have
if you've ever played Elfquest, please comment. I would be curious to know.
Yeah, let us know. Did those reviews seem to reflect your experience? I don't know. I want to know what people say. So okay, well, that's it for me. Brent, do you want to let them know all the important stuff, because I'm apparently really bad at that?
That's it for you, or are you just going to shut off your camera and it'll be just me staring here?
I'll see you later.
That's it for me. It's all you, Brent.
Just pull the parachute.
If you want to check us out on social media, you can find us on all media platforms, including Blue Sky, at Rollwise. Also, if you would like to email us, you can email us at rollwiseguys@gmail.com. And as always, roll well, roll wise, be safe out there. We appreciate all of you.
Oh, hey, Agile. Oh, well, we're sorry we missed you. We're not very good at YouTube in general.
I blame Mike for putting us in a different just chatting bracket.
What? I actually think I've heard that YouTube isn't very good at promoting live streams, even from people that you follow or subscribe to. So I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't have the keys to the castle, but we really appreciate you stopping by. Yeah. But we're done for the night. And of course, if you're interested, we are going to be doing some Cthulhu Confidential soon. So we'll get some notices up on that we'll be playing it. A nice duet game. So soon, hopefully next week.
Yeah, we'll be dancing together, Mike and I.
All right. Take care, Agile. All right. See everybody else. Bye.
Bye, everybody.